Hello, my name's Olorotimi Osha. Today is July the 18th, 2026, and today I want to discuss the perilous state of um, F1 non-immigrant visa uh, status right now in the United States, following the recent ruling by the Department of Homeland Security. Right, so uh, the F1 non-immigrant visa status had what was called a duration of status, right? So if an F1 student, non-immigrant visa holder, uh, had an F1, they uh, they didn't have a fixed departure date, right? So long as they were in compliance with their school's academic programs, right? So long as they were in good standing with their school and their school certified them, then they had no problem. They had what was called lawful. They had lawful status in the United States, right? They were not out of status, so they didn't put a fixed departure date on them. However, the Department of Homeland Security has changed that now, and they have now placed a fixed departure date with a cap of 4 years, right, for F1 student visas, right? I can do another video explaining what an F1 student visa is. I used to be an F1 student visa holder in the 90s. That's how I came into America. My parents paid for my program, right? I came in for an MBA originally, and my parents paid for my MBA. But once I got here, my school advised me to change my program to an undergraduate program, and so I'm going to explain everything to change my graduate program for the MBA, which my parents had paid for, to an undergraduate program. So I came in for MBA in general business, but they advised that I would, first of all, that even for the general business, I had undergraduate prerequisites I had to take, right? First of all. But they didn't tell my parents this. They didn't mention any of this in the I-20 I was issued. And they explained to me that the reason they didn't do any of that was because they were sure I wouldn't get a visa. My visa wouldn't be approved, or it would just create more hurdles for me. So they admitted me into this program, right? It was nothing that I knew, nothing that my parents knew. They admitted me into this program for the MBA. And then when I came, then they advised that no, you know what, you have some additional courses in undergraduate you have to do. And by the way, instead of doing general business, right, you are going to have better opportunities. We have this great accounting program. Switch and do undergraduate accounting, and then you continue with your MBA in accounting. And then they even came up with me doing information systems. They wanted me to do all sorts of stuff. My school didn't have a PhD program at the time, but they wanted me to go on to do a PhD program. But anyway, the long and short of it is, those schools wanted us here, and they were the ones who controlled the F1 visa programs, the status of the F1 students, right? So long as their students were in compliance with their programs and were in good academic standing, right, with the school, then they were fine. Immigration didn't check up on them. Immigration just gave them entry the first time. That's it. The F1 visa, they give them the entry. By the way, on your passport, it was stamped the school you were going to. So students could change. There were no limits or regulations for them to change their academic programs. You could even change schools, right? So long as the school you were in, was fine with it. So again, the federal government, the Department of Homeland Security, then it was called INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service. They didn't care. They didn't. It was up to the school, right? And the school was fine. If they liked you, you were all set. You were good. So I switched immediately as I came from the MBA to undergraduate accounting. So I did an undergraduate accounting program concurrently with my MBA, right? But I had to complete the undergraduate first, right, before I could proceed into the the MBA, even though the MBA was what I was admitted for. And it's kind of very interesting because when I was obtaining my visa, right, when I was coming for my visa, there was an Indian, he was Nigerian Indian, right, who went for his visa before me. And he was denied. He was explaining to them that although he had been admitted for a graduate program, an MBA, but his school also said he had to do an undergraduate program. And he was explaining to the consular official, right, at the U.S. Embassy in Lagos, that, well, the school said he hadn't acquired enough prerequisites to be able to just go into the MBA program. So he had to do those prerequisites, those undergraduate prerequisites, right? First of all, which was what turned out to be the case for me when I arrived after my visa had been approved. But my school just didn't state any of that. They just, I guess they were experts in this thing. They just said, okay, I'm coming for the MBA. I was admitted for the MBA, and that's all I'm doing. My parents paid for the money, had already paid my, covered my school, my tuition. All of that was settled, and that was it. So no long-winded story explaining, because the immigration official, they give you maybe 2 minutes, 1 minute, they're very quick. They don't have time. They don't give you 30 minutes. They don't give you a 15 minutes discussion. So this guy was trying to explain that, okay, yes, he got in for the MBA, but the school told him that he has to do an undergraduate, menu of courses as well, and to be able to qualify for the specific program he's doing in grad school. The immigration official just said, well, they're not convinced, and they denied him. And he was still trying to explain. They'd already told him he's been denied. Eventually, the immigration official just flung his papers away on the ground, because they were like, next, and he was still trying to explain. They just threw it on the ground. So my school did a good thing, right? They didn't say, hey, you know what, you're going to have to do all these undergraduate programs. They just admitted me straight up, you're doing the MBA. When I arrived, they now showed me all these courses I had to do. When I told my dad was pissed, right? Of course, my dad was pissed. My dad was like, okay, you know what, you need to come back home. So back then, things were different. Of course, I didn't go back home. I'm going to do another video and explain, right? Tell my great American story. So back then, Americans wanted F1 students, international students, to come, right? And F1 is a non-immigrant visa type, right? It's saying you don't intend to immigrate to America, and when you're done with your program and then you get an optional practical training, you get training, work experience associated with your program, that you're going to go back to Nigeria. You don't intend to immigrate and settle in America, right? I'm an American citizen now, right? So things turned out differently. So the F1 created a path, right? Because F1, you get your practical training. After your F1, you get an optional practical training. Now it's like 3 years. Within that 3 years, your company could file for you. If you have a really advanced, there's certain programs, terminal degrees, right, who can file their green card themselves. So it's called an adjustment of status. So you're changing from being a non-immigrant, because you're a non-immigrant, and then you're saying you want to be an immigrant. By the way, all that I'm saying, none of what I'm saying is legal advice, right? I'm not your lawyer. This is not legal advice. So back then, you could change from non-immigrant status, your F1 status, because it's a non-immigrant status. You're saying you're not immigrating, even though you're here in America, but your purpose isn't to become a permanent resident or to live permanently in America. You're just here for your education and your training. That's what you're saying. That's your visa status. But back then, the federal government, US government, allowed you to change your status from once you were here, you could change your status, right? From non-immigrant to immigrant. That, okay, you want to immigrate, and then you start filing the process of your immigration, and you just had to pay an adjustment of status fee or some kind of penalty. You paid it. That's and all of that settled. So you're still in legal status, right? Now, the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Markwayne Mullin has changed all of that, right? So, under the scheme that I was in the 90s, in the 2000s, even up until now, it was called duration of status, right? So long as you were in compliance with your program, typically it is the school requires for international students to be registered in courses as full-time students. After that, you could do whatever, right? You could have a work permit to work. Typically, they say 20 hours on campus. But if you have extreme financial hardship, you can work more hours. They don't care. So long as because you have to meet their grade requirements you have to meet. You have to meet your academic grades, right, to maintain your F1 visa status. And you have to be registered full-time. Full-time means you take 12 credit hours, right? At least 12 credit hours per semester. Summers are off. You don't have to take courses during the summer. I took courses every summer until I was graduate. A full load of courses, not even just one. I registered as a full-time student every summer, and I worked, right, because I didn't have any plan of staying here, right. I wanted to just um, get my degrees and go. So one day I'll do a video and explain. So there's a certain class of people in Nigeria that they wanted to study abroad in America or the United Kingdom. Study abroad, as it's associated with their class status, right? So it's a status symbol that, well, so when they go back to Nigeria, that they studied abroad. Not that they're desperate and their families are trying to get them out of Nigeria, out of the country, so that they can work and send money home. No, that's not the case for a certain group of people. That's how it was when I came, right? So it was just a status thing, right? So they like to study abroad and return. If you notice, the president of Nigeria, current president of Nigeria, he studied in America. He got his accounting degree in America. He worked in America, but he didn't stay. He went back to Nigeria, and he's very wealthy. He's the president of Nigeria. There are many people like that. If anybody remembers Chief MQ Abiola, he studied in Scotland. He didn't stay. He did accounting. He went back to Nigeria, where he became a billionaire. Many people like that, right? But Akim Bello Osagi, right? He studied at Harvard, Oxford. He went back to Nigeria, where he became wealthy, right? So for a certain class of people, right, they're not rushing to go out. But the middle class, yes, they're the ones who want to. They invest everything to get that F1 for their children to emigrate. That's the plan, right? So just to clarify that. But let me quickly read the current ruling, and I could do more discussions on this F1 change of F1 immigration status thing. So it says here, this is from, it was issued a press release July the 16th, 2026. For nearly half a century, the outdated duration of status system has compromised national security and created an environment ripe for immigration fraud, said DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin. For decades, foreign students have been admitted into the U.S. indefinitely, allowing thousands to abuse our immigration system by perpetually enrolling in courses to avoid having to leave the U.S. By implementing clear, finite limits on these visas, the United States is reclaiming its ability to properly screen, vet, and monitor individuals within our borders. This final rule ensures that foreign students remain focused on their primary purpose, completing their studies and returning home, right? So this is from Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin. He's the first secretary of DHS without a 4-year college degree. He doesn't have a university bachelor's degree. He's the first, right? So he doesn't see the priority of America welcoming F1 students who go on to get advanced degrees and stay here. Now, there are other constraints that they've added. Like I said, you no longer can change your program. So just like the way I came and my school wanted me to change my program, right? from just the MBA general business to doing an undergraduate in accounting, a BSBA in accounting, right? And then to do an MBA in accounting, you can no longer do that. When I was at Columbia University, for instance, at one time I was, it's just a school that does these administrative changes, so long as they approve it, right? When I was at Columbia University, I was a pre-med student. I was a biomedical engineering major. I switched. I was a biological sciences major at one time. At some point, I switched. I became an economics major, right? So I could switch, change. All you have to do is go to an academic committee, and then you have a dean, an academic dean who counsels you, provides you guidance on what major you should specialize in and why you want to change your major, and they approve it or they don't approve it. That has nothing to do with the federal government, right? The government doesn't care. They don't regulate you. Now that has changed. Now the government has placed a 4-year cap on F1 visas, right? 4-year cap. You have to complete your program within 4 years, right? And after 4 years, they kick you out. You become an unlawful. You have unlawful presence in America after 4 years of your visa stay, right? For PhD students, because they're F1 as well, PhD students, sometimes, the PhD program can take a longer period. So if you need an extension, then you have to file an extension of stay with the United States, USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Service. That's under the Department of Homeland Security. You have to file with them, and they have to approve it. So it's under federal discretion for them to extend your stay, right? But for undergrads, so you see right now, it's really not worth it, right? You've got to be careful. The environment has changed. This video has gotten long. I'll do a subsequent video and I'll provide the narrative and just caution people who want to come. I know many people think America is a land paved with gold. It's easy for me to say it because I'm an American citizen. I've gone through the process, but I'm an American citizen, so I can say it. I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade or be a naysayer, right? Especially for young people. But there's nothing more important than your health, your life. People are literally being found hanging on trees right now in America, black people, and things have changed, right? You see there's growing xenophobia. When I was in America, I was welcomed with open arms by Americans, white Americans. I was in predominantly white states in Alabama. They welcomed me with open arms. I remember I was in America during the time of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, remember the culprits of 9/11 were actually F1 students. They were international students, F1 students. I remember, I was, of course, naturally reasonably worried at the time. But I remember where I was working, my colleagues who were white Americans, they didn't have college degrees. They weren't educated. The people you'd expect would be xenophobes, right? At least in this present environment. And I really don't know what's going on. Maybe they're not. But they were the ones who were telling me, you have nothing to worry about, right? Don't worry. Don't be scared. This is what they were telling me there. White Americans, and that you have nothing to worry about. That when people see you, they think you're a black American. You have nothing to worry about. Don't be afraid. Don't be worried, right? This was in rural Troy, Alabama, right? So things have changed. You can see the violence, the way they're raiding. Now it's Americans, neighbors that are reporting. They're snitching on their neighbors, on foreigners, right? And you could be a citizen. You don't know, right? You say, I'm an American citizen. There's somebody who talks like me who is probably undocumented, right? And there's a neighbor who's snitching. They created an environment of suspicion where neighbors suspect one another. Americans hate snitching. Snitching is, you hear Americans will say, those who snitches get stitches or whatever, right? Americans hate people who snitch, right? They hate that, right? They're reporting people. So Americans typically would mind their business. They don't go about snitching, snooping into what other people are doing. But now Americans are picking up the phone, calling ICE, saying, hey, there's an illegal immigrant here that's probably a criminal. And the government, there have been these viral videos saying the government, ICE, is giving people money to provide tips and information that could lead to the arrest of an illegal alien who's a criminal illegal alien. And they will pay them money, maybe $750. ICE has debunked it, but they are actually, because I've seen there are instances, this is what people are saying, and you don't know what Americans believe, right? Americans, there might be average Americans, ordinary Americans who don't really know what accurate information. So they hear a rumor and they believe it. So the thing is, Americans are calling ICE on their neighbors. So you don't want to be that F1 person who's here, whose neighbors call ICE on you. Or even your classmate, an American, calls ICE on you because you're at top of the class and they're jealous. And ICE comes and gets you and detains you, and that's it. They've created new stringent rules, and I'll do another video. I don't want to get this too long because nobody's going to watch it if it's so long. So I'm going to do another video and just provide more information on how you can keep yourself safe and how it's not necessary, right? It's not necessary to spend so much money to come to America as an F1 student. Not now, right? My name is Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted. Thank you.